Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Truth Talks. I'm Coach Sandra, the Truth Mindset Strategist. Today, I have the joy of introducing you to someone very special in the coaching world. I'm joined by Tobybeth Johnson. She is a fellow licensed Ziegler Master Coach and the founder of Limitless Horizons. Tobybeth has a deep passion for helping people move from confusion to clarity so they can live with greater purpose and intention. She often describes herself as a guide walking alongside others as they rediscover truth, reclaim their identity, and take meaningful steps forward in life and leadership. So, Tobybeth, I am so glad you're here today.
Sandra, I'm blessed and grateful that you have me as your guest today. My work focuses on helping people move from confusion to clarity. So, like you were saying, they can take meaningful steps forward in their lives and in their leadership. And, you know, Nothing brings me greater joy than being a fellow guide walking alongside people as they reconnect with the truth about who they are and what they're capable of.
Yeah. So, Beth, before we jump into talking about coaching, I would love for our viewers just to hear a little bit about your journey. What led you to become a Ziegler Master Coach and to start Limitless Horizons?
Um, hmm, that's a loaded question. So I've always been someone people came to when they were trying to sort through life's decisions from a very early age. I didn't recognize it as that then. Um, and when I discovered the Ziegler philosophy and eventually became licensed, I realized it gave language and structure to something that had already been part of who I was for a long time. So, growing up in inner city Philadelphia, I was raised as a minority in the neighborhood where my parents chose to raise their kids. I'm the youngest of three and the only girl. And I now, looking back, realize that I misunderstood friendships. Those that came to me to look for answers, I thought they wanted to be my friends. And in fact, they were just looking for help. And, my parents always fostered the open door policy at their house. If you were in trouble, if you needed help, if you needed a meal, if you needed a place to stay, uh, our house was the one that everybody came to. And I just thought everybody that came through the door was a friend. And by making those choices mistakenly, now I can say that, it led me to some very dark places growing up. And those dark places followed me into adulthood, where I would choose people to align myself with, not realizing that I was more comfortable living in their expectations. So those expectations of others became the shadows that I thought I was thriving in until about 3 years ago. And I got to a point in my professional career where I just felt invisible. I felt like I was lost, that I wasn't good enough, and I didn't recognize who I was. I didn't know what I was looking for, and I lived in that dark hole for a little over a year. And I say it's only been a year, even though I say it's been most of my adult life, over 50 years. And it's only been through the foundational principles of Ziegler, becoming a Ziegler certified Choose to Win coach and legacy coach, and ultimately a master coach with you, Sandra, um, that I discovered this was not how I was meant to live. Um, Living my life in limiting beliefs and thinking that I was doing it correctly, I learned was not. So I went through a huge transformation and still going through it today. That transformation led me to see that living in darkness was never where I was meant to be. I was always meant to live in the light. You know, one of my keynotes is buried in noise, born for the light. And those are the foundational principles that I teach from because I believe that everybody deserves to live in their light and not in the darkness of others' expectations.
Yeah, that's powerful. Thank you for being raw and open with us about your journey, because so many times the women that I coach and that you coach, we're all going through some of those same things where we just all feel invisible sometimes, and yet we might feel like we're the only one. And so it's good to be able to say that this is what's happening, and that there are ways to have that transformation in your life. And one of the things that you said, which I love, is becoming a Ziegler coach. It gave you that language, right, and that structure to take some of the things you were already doing and really be able to focus it in to help people. And one of the phrases that you often use is that moving from confusion to clarity. So, what are some of the most common areas where people feel confused about their direction in their life or in their leadership?
So, one thing I often see is that people think they're stuck because they lack motivation or discipline. And in reality, many are just simply overpowered by that noise. Like I was saying, expectations, past experiences, or self doubt. So, when someone gains clarity and connects with the truth, they often realize that they already have what they needed to take the next step. So uh, I also like to say clarity is powerful because when you see your life clearly, your next step becomes obvious.
Yeah. And so many people genuinely want to change, right? They have that desire. They know like there's got to be something more out there, and they really do have that feeling of being stuck. So, from your experience in coaching people, what are some of those hidden reasons why people they just struggle to move forward even when they desire that growth?
So I often encourage people to ask themselves three simple questions, and this is right out of the gate. First, I love talking to people and I love hearing about where they're at, how they got to where they're at today, what their dream is, what their visions are, what they see for themselves. And that generally uncovers a bunch of things. So I asked them these three simple questions. What noise am I believing right now? Right now. And what truth do I know deep down? And what is one small step that I can take today from where I am with what I have? So the noise question, what noise am I believing right now? Those are the limiting beliefs that have been mired into our heads. And this is where confusion comes in because limiting beliefs are one thing, and knowing who you are, the truth of who you are deep down, which is why I love your truth and mindset workshops. It uncovers so much. And People are often, and I hesitate to use the word afraid, but that is the word that people use. They're afraid to see who they are underneath all that noise because of the limiting belief. And everybody hears this over and over again. It's very common. Um, it- the lies, the limiting beliefs, that's all the noise. And when I come alongside somebody and help them uncover the truth and discover what that noise is that's been holding them back, the fear always comes up of, well, what's so and so going to think about me? And that's the number one reason why people don't want to change, won't take the steps necessary because they're afraid of what others might think or say. I tell my clients to flip that switch. Don't think about what their opinion is going to be because you're suddenly going to show up differently. Think about what if you don't start showing up differently? What's that going to look like for you and your family, those you love and you care about? So, I guess honestly, when I think about it in sum total, I tell my clients often transformation does not happen in giant leaps. It happens in small, honest choices repeated every day. And if we look at Ziegler's Wheel of Life, the seven spokes, the mental, the spiritual, the physical, the family, the financial, the career, the personal, and we just take one small step in each spoke each day and are patient with ourselves, you'll find that the journey is so beautiful. That light that journey brings inward and outwardly is a life worth living.
Yeah. It has a lot to do with identity and self-talk. And you talk about the importance of the words that people believe about themselves. So how do those internal beliefs influence the decisions that people are making about their futures?
Well, those are lies for the most part. I mean, not everything that you hear is a lie about yourself, right? But it does make us question if what we're hearing from others, it's like a Tom Ziegler does very well with the Truth Compass in his new series. I recommend you check it out. Plug, shameless. And understanding who you are first, like really taking a good inward look at what's in here. Once you identify what your own truth is, then you can start changing what you're feeding your mind up here. So your heart and your head are connected, right? You and I have talked about this a lot. And we hear this a lot in the circles that we travel in. And your head doesn't rule your heart when you're in positive mode. Your head rules your heart when you live in limiting beliefs. So if you reverse that and you live from your heart and you keep repeating that over and over again, your head, your mind, I mean, it's all scientific based research. You rewire those thought processes. Now that's pretty deep, right? So I like to keep it pretty simple. Um, Transformation in itself is a challenging road to go down, because when you go through transformation, you're often asking people to give up a part of themselves that they're most comfortable with, even though they don't like that part of themselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
And a lot of people that might be watching, even, we feel called to lead in some capacity, whether it's in our family or our church, our community, our work, however that leadership might be. How does gaining this clarity about who you are help someone to become a more confident leader?
hmm, that's a great question. Doing the work, finding your voice, your real voice, the voice that brings you peace and joy, moves you into a different, I don't know, level of understanding. So I'll tell you a story. So I have a client, or had a client, one of my clients, was living in a bubble very similar to the bubble I described at the top of our conversation, just inside other people's expectations, and they were textbook case stuck because they lacked motivation or discipline, because they were allowing themselves to believe what other people were telling them they were or weren't. And that created a mountain of self-doubt, a lack of confidence, and no inner peace. So when we put the work in and we take the steps to identify the difference of, is it, well, let me put it this way. Um, it's not what you are, it's who you are. And being able to distinguish the difference between the what and the who will help move you forward intentionally to discover what is inside of you. So, to answer your question, the first step is identifying who you are and separating that from what you are. Once you do that and that inner peace starts to fill you, that starts to create space up here. Letting go of the negativity, the limiting beliefs, it opens up your mind to start accepting the positive as opposed to the negative. It's kind of like a diet, right? You know you shouldn't drink soda, but man, it's so comfortable and it makes me feel good, or eating a big plate of pasta, or all the chocolate candy at Easter or any holiday. It all makes me feel good. And yet, deep down inside, we know it's not good for us. So, just giving up one of those things. I mean, right? We're in the middle of Lent right now, right? So, just give up one of those things and replace it with something good. Um, give up soda for water, or give up coffee for tea, or whatever it is. You give up one bad habit and replace it with a good habit daily. And when you repeat this over and over again, it becomes part of your subconscious and you stop thinking about it. It's like leaving your house at the same time every day, following the same routine. And last thing you do when you pull the door closed behind you is you lock it
Mhm.
and you get in your car and you drive off. How many times have you driven down the road thinking, huh, did I remember to lock the door? So those are habits that we just subconsciously do over and over again. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it goes back to, what you said. It's small steps towards change. That's really what it all boils down to. For someone listening today that, you know, feels overwhelmed or uncertain about what their next step is, what are two or three just simple actions that they could take today to just begin that forward motion?
So, if someone listening today feels overwhelmed or unsure about their direction, I want them to remember that clarity often begins with one honest moment of reflection. So when you replace noise with truth, your direction starts to change. You may feel buried in noise, but you were born for the light.
Yeah, and that goes back to everything that Zig Ziglar used to teach and talk about, right? And you mentioned the Ziglar philosophy, and one of the things I really appreciate about the Ziglar philosophy is that it has a real emphasis on encouragement and community. Why is it so important for people to have that support and accountability when they're trying to grow or make these meaningful changes?
Because when you surround yourself with like-minded individuals who are naturally, seemingly positive thinkers, you know, growing up, I was told if you hang out with these people, this is going to happen. And if you hang out with those people, that's going to happen. As adults, we hear the phrase, hang out with 5 millionaires and you'll be the sixth one. We all like role models. They Role models are people that we perceive to be successful, have the things that we want to have. So if we put ourselves in a community of people, choose to put ourselves in a community of people that are doing good, positive, reaffirming work inwardly and outwardly, then we can expect from ourselves the same thing. You know, um, I don't know about you, Sandra, but I know growing up, I always chose the wrong people to hang out with, seemingly the wrong people. I don't know who they are now. Um, and my father, Buzz's Art, used to say to me, well, if so and so wanted to jump off a bridge, would you jump off that bridge too? And of course, me being who I was then, still a little part of me today, my answer was always, well, yeah, they know what's best. So, um, community is super important. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so blessed and grateful to have you in my life, Sandra. You made yourself known in my community, in my heart. My community starts in your heart, right? So when we became aligned during our training with Ziegler Corporation, you helped me open some doors that I didn't even know needed to be opened. Uh, Most specifically, the spiritual door. And being partnered with you as a coach within the Ziegler community and family has been one of the greatest blessings that I've received in the last couple of years. And that's why I asked you to be a part of the transformation community that we've now built together, show up for her. You know, um, I love to bring people together. I love to hang out with the people that bring people together so that we can show each other as women or as human beings, more importantly, that we can all move forward with clarity when we make the right choices for ourselves.
And that community and accountability is really what coaching is all about. And we've mentioned Ziegler several times here because you and I, we both love Ziegler. We're both Ziegler coaches. I want to talk about your coaching approach because every coach brings a unique perspective to what they do. And I appreciate so much how much that you just, make me feel good about my coaching. But how would you describe the approach that you take in helping people to gain that clarity and direction?
Hmm. Thank you for asking. So, my coaching approach is rooted in helping people slow down long enough so that they can gain clarity. Seems to be the theme here, right? Gaining some clarity, which produces peace. Um, and again, you know, people are overwhelmed with that noise, the expectations, the pressures, their old beliefs. And when we step back and reconnect with the truth about who we are and what we truly want, and I do this by coming alongside of any of my clients and just walking them through that, you know, their next step often becomes more clearer. So from there, clarity creates space. So now we have the room to move forward to focus on small, consistent actions that move them forward. So, an easier way to phrase this is three pillars of my coaching. Clarity, number one. Number one, clarity. Understanding where they are and what they truly want. Pillar number two, truth. Huh. I mean, I know you're a big fan of this one. Challenging the beliefs or the noise that might be holding them back. And some of those answers are going to surprise our clients. And action. So creating simple, practical steps that move them forward. So that's really where my work centers around those three things: clarity, truth, and action. When someone sees their situation clearly and reconnects with the truth about themselves and begins taking small steps forward, real transformation starts to happen. Actually, running a group coaching session right now that I'm really enjoying. But I have to say that my clients in this group are enjoying it more. Um, it's 30 days to clarity in action. And it's just about identifying what you can do with where you're at, with what you have, and planning those steps day by day and committing to yourself to honor those steps to reach a goal. So the group set, each individual in the group set a small obtainable goal in 30 days, hence the 30 days of clarity. And we're halfway through the group session and they have achieved remarkable results. They've accomplished so much in just a few short weeks. So, you know, I don't try to tell people who they should become. I help them rediscover who they already are.
Yeah, so it's your CTA, your call to action, clarity, truth, and action. That's your CTA, and it is amazing. Like you're saying that these ladies you're working with are having transformation in such a short time, and people sometimes don't believe that it can happen so quickly, but it really can, and that's what that community and accountability really does. Is it just kind of just makes everything move forward so much faster, so much easier than doing it by yourself. And there may be someone watching right now. In fact, I know there is. I know there's people watching right now who just feel like they've kind of lost their sense of direction. So what would you say to someone who feels like they're too late or they're too far behind or they're just too confused to start again?
Well, first of all, you're not too late. You're right on time. You know, and And if you find that you're not believing in yourself, that's okay. Let's just have that conversation because I'm going to tell you what, I believe in you. I'm talking to your listeners. I mean, I believe in you too, Sandra. You know how I feel about you. um, I believe in you. And if you don't believe in yourself, that's okay. Because I'm going to let you borrow my belief in you until you can build your belief up in yourself again. I serve as a guide. You know, moving from confusion to clarity so that you can live with greater purpose and intention is the best gift you can give to yourself. And that will ripple throughout eternity, through your family, through your children, your legacy, and give you greater sense of self peace and self worth.
So if our viewers could take away just, one thought from our conversation today, what would you want them most to remember?
Hmm. Most people aren't stuck because they lack ability. They're stuck because there's too much noise drowning out their truth. And it's okay to ask somebody or accept the help of somebody, like a coach, to come alongside you, hold you accountable, and walk you through the steps of self discovery, truth, light, and peace.
Tobybeth, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us today. I appreciate the work you're doing to help people gain that clarity and move forward with intention. Ladies, if you have enjoyed this conversation, please be sure to connect with Tobybeth and learn more about the work she's doing through Limitless Horizons. And to everyone watching, please remember, when we align our thoughts with truth and we take one faithful step at a time, clarity begins to unfold. So thank you for joining us on Truth Talks. Please like, subscribe, and share this conversation with someone who might need encouragement today. And leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought. Be blessed.